Day. And we've got a special stream today. It's going to take me a few minutes to set this up properly, so let me just work on doing that. Okay, I don't need to hear myself. That's unnecessary. Alright, that's where we can see chat. Okay. So that's going to go, I think, over here. Yeah. And the Twitch one will go right next to it would be ideal. And then I'll have the book up over here. Okay. Works for me. Merry Christmas to all. We are live. Let me just go ahead and get the word out here. Hey, Alice. Merry Chrysalis. Oh, am I going to go into a cocoon and emerge and liquefy and then turn into something else? Yes? Oh. I hope that that's a quicker process. Yes, Merry Lipsmas. Let me just type up my message here. Hey there, rednecks and Dylan. Merry Christmas to all of you, and happy holidays, and all of the hey there, Ted. Merry Chrysler. Okay, we're getting. This is a Honda Day stream, indeed. You guys are quite clever, and you know, Festivus too. That was a few days ago. Festivus for the rest of us. I should have typed this up ahead of time, but I guess I didn't think that much through. In the chat at some point, we might have Sid might be coming. He was planning to, at least. All right. Speaking of Christmas and all that, Alice, have you tried any of the mustards that I've gotten you yet, or did you not have chance for that yet? All right. Not yet? Okay. Yeah, when you try them, I'm very curious to know what. Hey, Sid. How's it going? I'm curious to know what you think, especially the Dijon, because if you say it's good, I might have to order some of that for myself. You know, a little Christmas mustard. Well, it'll be New Year's mustard, right? Hey, Moogle. And hey, Coyote, everybody coming in, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and all that. We're going to read J.R.R. Tolkien's Letters from Father Christmas today, which is going to be a lot of fun, I think, for you guys and for me. It's not very long because it really is just a series of short letters, and I'm going to explain what that was and everything. So it's not going to be like a full-length stream or anything like that. I'm sure that you guys all have your own like Christmas plans and things like that, and you probably, you know, have some gifts you want to enjoy or spend time with your family. But I'm going to be you know, explaining what the book is. I'm not going to go. There's no like real lore to go over. Every once in a while, I'll comment on, you know, his choice of names for the elves and things like that. But we're not gonna start like right immediately, but pretty soon. You did all your Christmas plans early? Yes, I mean, so did I. Hey there, Anand, how's it going? I went to my grandmother's house and we had Jamaican food for Christmas Day today. That was yes. Oh yes, absolutely, Alice. Especially since it's picked up a bit. Absolutely. We had a Jamaican Christmas. It was very cool. Which the food was really, really good. There was we had jerk chicken. We had peas and rice. We had patties, beef patties, and this sort of like vegetable slaw, this cooked vegetable slaw, which was with cabbage, mostly cabbage and carrots, which was really good, by the way. I don't know what they seasoned it with, but the cabbage was really delicious. Yeah, the patty was really good. It was really, really good. And there was fried plantains. Mughal had Chinese food. There are a lot of people, especially on the East Coast, that consider Chinese food to be a bit of a Christmas tradition, that they're not necessarily partaking in, the holiday, but they want to do something special on that day because everybody is, and Chinese food became sort of a mainstay there. Sweet and sour chicken is... Oh, they forgot to include the sweet and sour sauce, so that's sad. Maybe you have some sauce you could put on it or something, right? Yes, it's common in... a lot of Jewish families. Mostly that started because Chinese restaurants were the ones that were open on Christmas Day. But it's gone far beyond that at this point, I think, But yeah. It's midnight where you are, Rednecks? Oh, okay. Are you in, what are you in, like British Columbia by some chance? Somewhere around that region? You don't need to dox yourself or anything. I just get curious about where people are coming to me from, I always think that's interesting to hear. And we have some royalty-free Christmas music that I've got, what I hope is a very inoffensive volume here, from composer Kevin MacLeod. Who, by the way, in my normal videos that I put out every Wednesday, where I'm answering questions, the music in the background is also from Kevin MacLeod there. Yeah, said. That's what I said pretty much. That's exactly what I said. They were the only restaurants back in like the 40s and 50s and going on from there that were open on Christmas Day. You've already donned your gay apparel? Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. Oh boy. Oh, the UK. Oh, okay. So I would have thought it would be early the next morning there already. Hey, Gray, what did you eat today? See, it's interesting because the previous holiday we had here in the United States, Thanksgiving, there's some variation, but there's pretty much an expected thing that people are going to have turkey and stuffing and other sides. But Christmas is really sort of this interesting thing because there's no real tradition when it comes to what the meal is. There are some traditions, but they're regional or familiar, and so you don't really see like one thing. And a lot of times we do Spanish food on Christmas. We did Jamaican this year. We used to always do Italian food, although now we do the Italian food on Christmas Eve. Which we had that. Oh, you went to IHOP, see? There you go. Oh, you got your partnership on YouTube back. That's good to hear. The Balrog Lego set. Is it good? Does the Balrog have wings or not? It probably does. Most of the depictions give them wings, even if that's not necessarily correct. Well, that's good to hear, Gray. That's good to hear. Familiar and familial. Yeah, both of those things. You're right. I was like, which one am I going to use? But really, they are both things. A few of your gifts you can't use. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. See, that's why I got you mustard. I figured you could use that. And plus, you were talking about ordering some, and I was like, wait, don't order it. I'll get you some. But I really want to hear about that. I believe it was called the Provincial Dijon. Because if it's really good, I might order myself some. I haven't had a good Dijon in a while, other than the very occasional splurging on like Grey Poupon, But that's not all that often. Okay, guys. It does have wings. You did comment on it. Family thought you were mad. Well, your family might be like, I saw the movie. It had wings, right? All right, let's switch over to our Christmassy scene here, which some of you may have seen an earlier version of this. I discovered I didn't really like that earlier version. It was too all one color. you know. Oh, okay, good. So you will be able to at some point. That's good to hear. All right, anyway, to set this up, Letters from Father Christmas is born out of a tradition that the Tolkien family had, which started in 1920. And of course, you know, if you don't know, Father Christmas in the UK is what they call Santa Claus. Every culture sort of has their own name for this figure, who was actually Dutch in origin. And of course, many children will write letters to Santa Claus or Father Christmas or Wunderklaas or whatever you're calling him, and just telling them, hey, you know, I've been good, and this is what I'd like to get, you know. And then of course, you know, there's the idea that Santa reads these letters and then decides whether or not you deserve it, what you asked for, and then your parents buy the gifts and say it's from Santa, you know. And but anyway, Tolkien, being sort of a jocular sort and very much into anything that was festive or joyful or fun, and he had the idea of, well, if children are always writing to Father Christmas, why doesn't he write back? And of course the answer is there isn't such a thing as Father Christmas, but Tolkien thought if he was going to make his children believe in Father Christmas, that he should write them letters from Father Christmas. So the first one came in 1920, and Tolkien is really interesting. He even devised a special handwriting that was recognizable as Father Christmas's handwriting, and he drew pictures. Unfortunately, I can't show the book as I'm reading it because that wouldn't be safe for copyright or anything like that. But if you enjoy today's stream and you want to get the book, I do highly recommend you get it, whether you get it digitally or you get a real copy of it, because Letters from Father Christmas is really cute, and it's got a lot of Tolkien's art in it, which we all, you know, are used to praising his writing, but we don't often talk about his art. And this was put together by Bailey Tolkien, which was Christopher's wife later on. So the pictures are really, really great. I actually originally had one of them in the background, but it was too many bright colors. I needed warmer, darker colors to be in the background, so that's why I changed to this sort of festive Yule days in the Shire sort of look here, which is what we have behind us. Tom Bombadil was a jolly fellow, but was he as old as Fangorn? No, he was quite a lot older, Michael. Remember that the elves called him the oldest and fatherless. He was there before even Morgoth came into the world. So he's a lot older than Treebeard. But here we go. I'm going to start with the introduction here. Well, no, Treebeard didn't claim to be the oldest. He was called the oldest by Celeborn. Specifically, Celeborn called him eldest, and that may have been a very true thing because he was probably the oldest natural creature that walked upon Middle-earth, whereas, you know, Bombadil is more of a spirit. You know, Santa Claus is Tom's father. I like it. You know, he's more of a spirit, not exactly like the angels, but in his own unique way. And of course, we know that Matt wrote a fantastic paper about Bombadil's possible origins and the relation to Ungolians and to Zoroastrianism and all that stuff, which really, really great paper that he wrote. But anyway, what's interesting is that when they talk about what they experienced and you know, having been so old, it's interesting because Treebeard talks about walking around Beleriand, but when Tom speaks, he talks about seeing the first raindrop and the first acorn. And if you think about it, what do Ents grow from? Probably from something similar to an acorn. I mean, they're not exactly trees. They're giants that have some tree-like qualities to them. But he was there before the first raindrop, before the first acorn. I would say Tom is quite a lot older. He was probably the spirit of Middle-earth itself that first awoke and when the world was created. That's always been my going theory. I'm going to read the introduction here. To the children of J.R.R. Tolkien, the interest and importance of Father Christmas extended beyond his filling of their stockings on Christmas Eve, for he wrote them a letter every year in which he described in words and pictures his house, his friends, and the events, hilarious or alarming, at the North Pole. The first of these letters came in 1920, when John, the eldest, was 3 years old, and for over 20 years, through the childhood of the 3 other children, Michael, Christopher, and Priscilla, they continued to arrive each Christmas. Sometimes the envelopes, dusted with snow and bearing polar postage stamps, were found in the house on the morning after his visit. Sometimes the postman brought them, and the letters that the children wrote themselves vanished from the fireplace when no one was about. As time went on, Father Christmas's household became larger, and whereas at first little is heard of anyone else except the North Polar Bear, later on there appear snow elves, red gnomes, snowmen, cave bears, and the polar bear's nephews, Paksu and Volkotuka, who came on a visit and never went away. But the polar bear remained Father Christmas's chief assistant, and the chief cause of the disasters that led to muddles and deficiencies in the Christmas stockings, and sometimes he wrote on the letters his comments in angular capitals. Eventually, Father Christmas took on as his secretary an elf named Ilbereth, and in the later letters, elves play an important part in the defense of Father Christmas's house and stone cellars against attacks by goblins. In this book are presented numerous examples of Father Christmas's shaking handwriting, but almost all the pictures that he sent here are reproduced, and also included is the alphabet that the polar bear devised from the goblin drawings on the walls of the caves where he was lost, and the letter that he sent to the children written in it. Can one of my Twitch mods please ban the spammer? We have a spammer on Twitch. If we can get rid of that, please. I mean, Ryan, I don't think that he's a spirit of the entire Earth. I think he's a spirit of specifically Middle-earth. Keep in mind that Middle-earth is a specific location, and he doesn't ever go to, to Numenor or the Undying Lands or anything else. So, all right, I'm going to get rid of that account there. I think my mods have stepped away. I'm going to get rid of that. All right. No more spammers. Okay, I'm going to move the chats over here. I think I'd be more comfortable if the chats were over here and the book was underneath my webcam, so when I'm reading it looks like I'm looking at you guys. Oh, it wasn't showing up on your end? Okay, and Moogle's like narcoleptic or something, so that's okay, I got it. All right, so we're going to start with the first letter that was sent in 1920. Christmas House, North Pole, 22nd December 1920. Dear John, I heard you ask Daddy what I was like and where I lived. I have drawn me and my house for you. Take care of the picture. I am just off now for Oxford with my bundle of toys, some for you. Hope I shall arrive in time. The snow is very thick at the North Pole tonight. Your loving Father Christmas. No, that's okay. You're the YouTube mod. You don't have to worry about Twitch. Just like the Twitch mods don't have to worry about YouTube. You don't have to worry about that. So that's our first letter. It's rather short, but just imagine being a boy of 3 years old and getting that, that's pretty interesting. And by the way, it was mentioned in the introduction, but part of this was also, kids often, they write very, very long Christmas lists. And when I was little, we didn't write Christmas lists. We were given these catalogs from various different department stores. They were called wish books, and you just go and circle everything you wanted, and then your parents would look through it, and you would give them an idea of what to get. Yeah, the wish books, exactly. So, but every kid just they play the numbers game. They ask for like a million things, and they hope that they get as many as they can. But Tolkien used these letters as a way of sort of explaining to his kids why they don't get everything that they ask for. Because, it's easy for your parents to say to you, well, we can't quite afford all those presents. But how are you going to say, well, Santa isn't going to bring you everything because the elves are on strike? You know, it doesn't really work all that well, you know? Okay. All right, here's our next letter. This one's 1923. North Pole, Christmas Eve, 1923. My dear John, it is very cold today, and my hand is very shaky. I am 7 years old on Christmas Day. Lots older than your great-grandfather, so I can't stop the pen wobbling. But I hear that you are getting so good at reading, I expect you will be able to read my letter. I send you lots of love, and lots for Michael, too, and lots bricks, too, which are called that because there are lots more for you to have next year if you let me know in good time. I think they are prettier and stronger and tidier than Pika bricks, so I hope you will like them. Now I must go. It is a lovely fine night, and I have got hundreds of miles to go before morning. There is such a lot to do. A cold kiss from Father Nicholas Christmas. So there you have that. This one was interesting because clearly he's answering a question where little John Tolkien asked, how old are you, Father Christmas? And he says, 1924, no, 27, and that he was born on Christmas Day, which is interesting to say. So there you have that. Okay, we're going to move on to the next year, 1924, and this is a small one. Dear Michael Hillary, I am very busy this year. No time for letter. Lots of love. Hope the engine goes well. Take care of it. A big kiss with love from Father Christmas. Now, he does put a few rhymes in there every once in a while. That is true. Okay, our next one comes a little bit later in the same year, 1924. It's December 23rd, 1924. Dear John, hope you have a happy Christmas. Only time for a short letter. My sleigh is waiting. Lots of new stockings to fill this year. Hope you will like Station and Things. A big kiss with love from Father Christmas. And then moving along, we're going to go to 1925. Now this is a bit of a longer letter, so this one's fun. Cliff House, top of the world, near the North Pole, Christmas 1925. My dear boys, I am dreadfully busy this year. It makes my hand more shaky than ever when I think of it. And not very rich. In fact, awful things have been happening, and some of the presents have got spoilt, and now I haven't got the North Polar Bear to help me, and I have had to move house just before Christmas, so you can imagine what a state everything is in. And you will see why I have a new address, and why I can only write one letter between you both. It all happened like this. One very windy day, last November, my hood blew off, and went and stuck on the top of the North Pole. I told him not to, but the North Polar Bear climbed up to the thin top to get it down, and he did. The pole broke in the middle, and fell on the roof of my house, and the North Polar Bear fell through the hole. It made into the dining room, with my hood over his nose, and all the snow fell off the roof into the house, and melted, and put out all the fires, and ran down into the cellars, where I was collecting this year's presents, and the North Polar Bear's leg got broken. He is well again now, but I was so cross with him that he says he won't try to help me again. I expect his temper is hurt, and will be mended by next Christmas. I send you a picture of the accident, and of my new house on the cliffs above the North Pole, with beautiful cellars in the cliffs. If John can't read my old shaky writing, 1925 years old, he must get his father to. When is Michael going to learn to read and write his own letters to me? Lots of loves to you both, and Christopher, whose name is rather like mine. That's all. Goodbye, Father Christmas. It's just interesting to see the connection of the names there of Christopher and Christmas, you know, and Tolkien sort of pointing that out there. And this is really, I think this is fun because you're sort of like watching them grow up through these letters, because at first it was just John, and now there's John and Michael and Christopher, in just a few short years. I think he fudged the age of Father Christmas there a little bit. I think he forgot to make him older, but that's okay. The kids probably didn't pick up on that. I think Christopher would have picked up on that, but he wasn't around for the first letter. Okay. Oh, and there's a postscript on this one. P.S. Father Christmas was in a great hurry. Told me to put in one of his magic wishing crackers. As you pull, wish, and see if it doesn't come true. Excuse thick writing, I have a fat paw. I help Father Christmas with his packing. I live with him. I am the Great Bear. So that's the first time that we see a little note from Mr. Polar Bear there at the end as the postscript. Okay. All right, so now we are moving along here to another nice long one. This is Cliff House, top of the world, near the North Pole, Monday, December 20th, 1926. My dear boys, I am more shaky than usual this year. The North Polar Bear's fault. It was the biggest bang in the world and the most monstrous firework there has ever been. It turned the North Pole black and shook all the stars out of place, broke the moon into four, and the man in it fell into my back garden. He ate quite a lot of my Christmas chocolates before he said he felt better, and climbed back to mend it and get the stars tidy. Then I found out that the reindeer had broken loose. They were running all over the country, breaking reins and ropes and tossing presents up in the air. They were all packed up to start, you see. Yes, it was only happened this morning. It was a sleigh load of chocolate things, which I always send to England early. I hope yours are not badly damaged. But isn't the North Polar Bear silly? And isn't he a bit sorry? Of course he did it. You remember I had to move last year because of him? The tap for turning on the Rory Borealis fireworks is still in the cellar of my old house. The North Polar Bear knew he must never, never touch it. I only let it off on special days like Christmas. He says he thought it was cut off since we moved. Anyway, he was nosing around the ruins this morning soon after breakfast. He hides things to eat there. And turned on all the northern lights for 2 years in one go. You have never heard or seen anything like it. I have tried to draw a picture of it, but I am too shaky to do it properly, and you can't find paint-fizzling light, can you? I think the polar bear has spoilt the picture rather. Of course, he can't draw with those great fat paws. And then a note from the polar bear, rude. I can, and write without shaking. And then back to Father Christmas. By going and putting a bit of his own about me chasing the reindeer and him laughing. He did laugh, too. So did I when I saw him trying to draw a reindeer and inking his nice white paws. And then we switch back to the polar bear. Father Christmas had to hurry away and leave me to finish. He is old and gets worried when funny things happen. You would have laughed too. I think it is good of me laughing. It was a lovely firework. The reindeer will run quick in England this year. They are still frightened. I must go and help pack. I don't know what Father Christmas would do without me. He always forgets what a lot of packing I do for him. The snowman is addressing our envelopes this year. He is Father Christmas's gardener. But we don't get much but snowdrops and frost ferns to grow here. He always writes in white, just with his finger, a Merry Christmas to you from the North Polar Bear, and love from Father Christmas to you all. Let me catch up here a little bit. Yeah, the polar bear is the best part of this, I think, because he's doing all, like these different characters, and it's just very, very whimsical, I think. I'm trying to okay, YouTube is there. We go. Okay, sorry about that. Yes, although this is a little bit before he wrote that poem. You're talking, of course, about the man in the moon came down too soon. And that was a bit later, because you have to remember that's the Lord of the Rings, and he hasn't even written The Hobbit at this point, although he does have the idea that the man in the moon is based on some sort of elvish myth, but yeah. Ah, you had heard of Letters from Father Christmas, but never had the chance to sample them before. They're delightful. You've just ordered the book. See, there we go. We're selling books for the Tolkien estate here. Merry Christmas, Feliz Navidad to you too as well, Rika Fingal. How's it going? Now, see, I had the same thought there, Sid, of the the fireworks, of Gandalf's fireworks. And now I love the way that he says he doesn't write Aurora Borealis. He writes it in a way that the children are going to be able to read what he's saying, the Auri Borealites. And he said they're the northern lights of all of 2 years, all going off at once, and it spoilt some of the chocolates that they were going to get, which I think is really cute. Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely. The developing of the characters is what makes this really cool. And especially, I mean, like, we're reading them all back to back, but imagine being, a kid and you get these letters once or twice a year, you know what I mean? Well, at first, it was just one, and then, when Michael came along, he started writing one for Michael and one for John, but then he just started consolidating it into one letter again. But yeah. The picture of okay, like I said, I can't really show a lot of the pictures, but I'll show you that one. So I'll show you the picture of the fireworks going off the Northern Lights. I can't do that on this scene? Hold on, we'll go over here and I'll show it. There it is. And you could see Father Christmas there, sort of just in disbelief that it's all happening, and then he's chasing the reindeer. So, okay. All right, let's go back to the Christmas scene there. So you could see that, a little bit of Tolkien's artwork. Very, very watercolor. He really liked that sort of look, I think. All right, let's move along here to 1927. Yes, he was really good at the vivid watercolor colors. So this is another nice long one. Cliff House, top of the world, near the North Pole, Wednesday, December 21st, 1927. My dear people, there seem to get more and more of you every year. I get poorer and poorer, yet I hope that I have managed to bring you all something you wanted, though not everything you asked for. Michael and Christopher. I haven't heard from John this year. I suppose he's growing too big and won't even hang up his stocking soon. It has been so bitter at the North Pole lately that the North Polar Bear has spent most of the time asleep and has been less use than usual this Christmas. And then the polar bear cuts in. Everybody does sleep most of the time here in winter, especially Father Christmas. Back to Father Christmas. The North Pole became colder than cold. So let's try that again. The North Pole became colder than any cold thing has ever been. And when the North Polar Bear put his nose against it, it took his skin off. Now it is bandaged with red flannel. Why did he? I don't know, but he is always putting his nose where it oughtn't to be. Into my cupboards, for instance. Then we go to the polar bear. Everybody... Oh, sorry. That's because I am hungry. Back to Father Christmas. Alas, it has been very dark here since winter began. We haven't seen the sun, of course, for 3 months. But there are no northern lights this year. You remember that awful accident last year? There will be none again until the end of 1928. The North Polar Bear has got his cousin and distant friend, the Great Bear, to shine extra bright for us. And this week I have hired a comet to do my packing by. But it doesn't work as well. The North Polar Bear has not really been any more sensible this year. And then, of course, the polar bear chimes in. I have been perfectly sensible, and I've learnt to write with a pen in my mouth instead of a paintbrush. Back to Father Christmas. Yesterday, he was snowballing the snowman in the garden and pushed him over the edge of the cliff so that he fell into my sleigh at the bottom and broke lots of things. One of them was himself. I used some of what was left of him to paint my white picture. We shall have to make ourselves a new gardener when we are less busy. The man in the moon paid me a visit the other day, a fortnight ago exactly. He often does about this time, as he gets lonely in the moon. and we make him a nice little plum pudding. He is so fond of things with plums in. His fingers were cold as usual, and the North Polar Bear made him play snapdragons to warm them. Of course he burnt them, and then he licked them, and then he liked the brandy, and the bear gave him lots more, and he went fast asleep on the sofa. Then I went down into the cellars to make crackers, and he rolled off the sofa, and the wicked bear pushed him underneath and forgot all about him. He could never be away a whole night from the moon, but he was this time. And then the bear, hey, Matt Damon, Merry Christmas to you as well. The polar bear chimes in here. I have never been expected to look after the man in the moon before. I was very nice to him, and he was very comfy under the sofa. Back to Father Christmas. Suddenly the snowman, he wasn't broken then, rushed in out of the garden next day just after tea time and said the moon was going out. The dragons had come out and were making an awful smoke and smother. We rolled him and shook him, and he simply whizzed back, but it was ages before he got things quite cleared up. I believe he had to let loose one of his simply terrificalistic, freezing magics before he could drive the dragons back into their holes, and that is why it has got so cold down here. The polar bear only laughs when I tell him that it's his fault, and he curls up on my hearthrug and won't do anything but snore. My messengers told me that you have somebody from Iceland staying with you. That is not so far from where I live, and nearly as cold. People don't hang up stockings there, and I usually pass by in a hurry, though sometimes I pop down and leave a thing or two for their very jolly Christmas trees. My usual way is down through Norway, Denmark, Germany, Switzerland, and then back through Germany, northern France, Belgium, and so into England. And on the way home I pass over the sea, and sometimes Iceland, and I can see the twinkling lights faint in the valleys under the mountains. But I go by quick, as my reindeer gallop as hard as they can there. They always say they are frightened a volcano or a geyser will go off underneath them. This must be all. I have written you a very long letter this year, as there was nothing to draw, but dark and snow and stars. Love to you all, and happiness next year, your loving Father Christmas. Can I explain the game of Snapdragons? No, I can't, actually. I could look it up for you, is what I can do. I don't know what Snapdragons is, actually. Let me look it up. Let's see. The man in the moon had too much brandy, rolled right under the sofa. I mean, it's a funny thought, right? Especially if you're thinking of it as Tilion from the Silmarillion, right? Okay, so I have to make sure that we're getting the game and not the flower here. Okay, so Snapdragons was, or also known as Flapdragon, Snapdragon, or Flapdragon, was a parlor game popular in the 16th century. You usually played it around Christmas. So what they do is they heat up the brandy in a bowl, and then they put raisins in the bowl, and then they light it on fire, and then they just sort of turn the lights out and watch it go. Not really much of a game there. Hey, Ted with the watch streak there. But really just something that they do. I don't know what the purpose of the raisins is. Maybe they burn for a really long time. I don't know. But that's interesting. So yeah, that explains why they went from playing Snapdragons into immediately, the man in the moon drinks all the brandy, Okay. All right, now on to 1928. This is another longer letter. Top of the world, North Pole, Thursday, December 20th, 1928. My dear boys, another Christmas and I am another year older, and so are you. I feel quite well all the same. Very nice of Michael to ask, and not quite so shaky, but that is because we have all got the lighting and heating right again after the cold, dark year we had in 1927. You remember about it. The man in the moon is not Tilion, but an ancient elf who found his way there. That's not something in Unfinished Tales. You might be thinking of Book of Lost Tales, absolutely, where it was sort of this older version where there was like a sun ship and a moon boat, and but definitely not Unfinished Tales. And I don't think he came up with Tilion quite yet at this point in 1927, although this is around when he starts writing the first Quenta Silmarillion, not the Book of Lost Tales. He's already written that. But yeah. And this is, like the really wacky version where Earendel, kills Ungoliant and all this crazy stuff. But the Man in the Moon, yeah, I mean, there's been a few different versions of him. I believe, the current version, it would be Tilion. But, at this point, he probably hasn't come up with that idea yet. Okay, let's see. Where were we? I expect you remember whose fault it was. What do you think the poor, dear old bear has been and done this time? Nothing as bad as letting off all the lights, only fell from top to bottom of the main stairs on Thursday. And then the bear. Who'd left the soap on the stairs? Not me. Back to Father Christmas. We were beginning to get the first lot of parcels down out of the storerooms into the hall. Polar Bear would insist on taking an enormous pile on his head as well as lots in his arms. Bang, rumble, clatter, crash, awful moanings and growlings. I ran out into the landing and saw he had fallen from top to bottom onto his nose, leaving a trail of balls, bundles, parcels, and things all the way down, and he had fallen on top of some and smashed them. I hope you got none of these by accident? I have drawn you a picture of it all. Polar Bear was rather grumpy at my drawing it. Then the bear. Of course, naturally. And back to Father Christmas. He says my Christmas pictures always make fun of him, and that one year he will send one drawn by himself of me being idiotic. But of course I never am, and he can't draw well enough. Back to the bear. Yes, I can. I drew the flag at the end. Back to Father Christmas. He joggled my arm and spoilt the little picture at the bottom of the moon, laughing, and Polar Bear shaking his fist at it. When he had picked himself up, he ran out of doors and wouldn't help clear up because I sat on the stairs and laughed as soon as I found there was not much damage done. That is why the moon smiled. But the part showing Polar Bear angry was cut off because he smudged it. But anyway, I thought you would like a picture of the inside of my new big house for a change. The chief hall is under the largest dome, where we pile the presents, usually ready to load on the sleighs at the doors. Polar Bear and I built it nearly all ourselves and laid all the blue and mauve tiles. The banisters and roof are not quite straight. And then the bear. Not my fault. Father Christmas did the banisters. Back to Father Christmas. But it doesn't really matter. I painted the pictures on the walls of the trees and stars and suns and moons, and then I said to Polar Bear, I shall leave the frieze, Frieze, to you. He said, I should have thought there was enough frieze outside, and your colors inside, all purply, grayy, bluey, pale greeny, are cold enough too. I said, don't be a silly bear. Do your best. There's a good old Polar, and what a result! Icicles all round the hall to make a frieze. Freeze. He can't spell very well. And fearful bright color to make a warm freeze. Well, my dears, I hope you will like the things I am bringing. Nearly all you asked for, and lots of other little things you didn't, which I thought of at the last minute. I hope you will share the railway things, and farm and animals often, and not think they are absolutely only for the one whose stocking they were in. Take care of them, for they are some of my very best things. Love to Chris, love to Michael, love to John, who must be getting very big as he doesn't write to me anymore. So I simply had to guess. Paints. I hope they were all right. Polar Bear chose them. He says he knows what John likes because John likes bears. Your loving Father Christmas, and my love, Polar Bear. Yeah. Lost Tales Part 1. There you go. There you go. An aged elf with hoary locks. Fantastic. And it's interesting because if you read the Book of Lost Tales, the elves do age. And the way that they would keep themselves young is by drinking a special drink called lempa, which is sort of a very early idea that later became lembas bread. But the lempa would make them young again, and then sometimes the mortals would drink it, and they would sort of go insane, But yes, that's what it was. It was the Book of Lost Tales, or as you said, toast tales. But a toast to you anyway, Sid. Okay, and Snapdragon's been better explained here that the idea of the game part is that you try to snatch the flaming brandy-soaked raisins from the bowl, extinguishing them in their mouths. That sounds so dangerous. Oh, no. And I personally don't like raisins. I would rather just drink the brandy. I'm with the man in the moon on this one. I would rather just drink the brandy, fall off the couch, roll under it, and then sleep the next day. And I love the idea that the letters are going back and forth between Father Christmas and the North Polar Bear. They're just sort of warbling back and forth, and he has two different handwritings, which, like I said, when you see the book itself, and I recommend you guys get this book if you don't have it, you'll see the actual written letters with the warbly handwriting and the polar bear's handwriting and everything. But just try to imagine the scenario of Father Christmas sitting there in like a study in his house, writing a letter to the Tolkiens, narrating it out loud, and then the polar bear, when he hears something that he disagrees with and he wants to write a part of it, you know, and he's like, all right, here, write what you want, you know. So that's the way that I would imagine that happening. Okay, so this is a rather, this is a short one here. Boxing Day, 1928. If you guys don't know, Boxing Day is December 26th in the British tradition. I am frightfully sorry. I gave this to the polar bear to post, and he forgot all about it. We found it on the hall table today. But you must forgive him. He has worked very hard for me and is dreadfully tired. We have had a busy Christmas. Very windy here. It blew several sleighs out over before they could start. Love again, Father Christmas. And now, especially for Sid, because Sid, earlier you were talking about the idea of some of these letters inspiring thoughts in Tolkien's mind, such as Gandalf's fireworks and stuff. Now, here's an interesting thought, though. Somebody forgetting to send a letter. It sort of comes up, in Book 1 of The Lord of the Rings, when Gandalf gives a letter to Barlam and Butterbur to send to Frodo, and he just never gets around to it. And so Frodo doesn't get the letter until Frodo winds up coming to Barlam and Butterbur. And even then, it's not right away because he's coming under an assumed name, and Barlaman has to sort of figure out that this Underhill fellow is actually Frodo Baggins. And then the letter, of course, explaining who Aragorn is Strider. And it's interesting, if you ever read the early version in The Return of the Shadow, that letter is in the very earliest draft when it wasn't Strider, it was the Hobbit Trotter. So I just wonder if this sort of idea of him having a letter that came late, only being sent out on the 26th, who knows when it actually arrived for the children to read, and then, well, that could make an interesting plot point, He, like I said, 1928, at this point, he's writing The Hobbit and already formulating ideas for a sequel in his head, and I just wonder if he ever came back to that idea and thought that. Sort of an interesting thought experiment here. All right. Now, this next letter is really interesting because it's written entirely by the polar bear. November 1929. Dear boys, my paw is better. I was cutting Christmas trees when I heard it. Don't you think my writing is much better, too? Father Christmas is very busy already. And I just want to point out that the polar bear misspells a lot of words. So am I. We have had heavy snow, and some of our messengers got buried, and some lost. That is why you have not heard lately. Love to John for his birthday. Father Christmas says my English spelling is not good. I can't help it. We don't speak English here, only Arctic, which you don't know. We also make our letters different. I have made mine like Arctic letters for you to see. We always write for T and V for you. This is some Arctic language which means goodbye till I see next, and I hope it will be soon. Maramesta ani vela tiayanto yaratone. P.B. My real name is Karu, but I don't tell most people. P.S. I like letters and think Christophers are nice. Okay. So, the Arctic language, very similar to Quenya, isn't it? Very, very similar. You sense a fellow feeling and mood in Father Christmas and Barlaman? Absolutely. Because Barlaman, if you think of him, he's a fat, jolly man who's always very, very busy and doesn't always remember things, right? So, oh man, I was just mentioning that, if you think about it, The Lord of the Rings is a bit Christmassy. The Fellowship sets out from Rivendell on Christmas Day, right? Barlaman is Santa Claus. Oh, Parliament is Santa Claus. There's a theory, right? All right, we have another nice long one coming up here. Okay, here we are. Top of the world, North Pole, Christmas 1929, dear boys and girl. So I just want to point out now Priscilla has entered into the busy and generous, yes. Priscilla has entered into the realm of the living at this point. It is a light Christmas again, I am glad to say. The Northern Lights have been specially good. There's a lot to tell you. You have heard that the great polar bear chopped his paw when he was cutting Christmas trees. His right one. I mean, not his left, of course. It was wrong to cut it. And a pity, too, for he spent a lot of the summer learning to write better so as to help me with my winter letters. We had a bonfire this year to please the polar bear to celebrate the coming in of winter. The snow elves let off all the rockets together, which surprised us both. I have tried to draw you a picture of it, but really there were hundreds of rockets. You can't see the elves at all against the snow background. Okay, I just want to pause there because this is really interesting because he's evolved the idea of, and this is what Sid was talking about in the chat, he's evolved the idea of the all of the Northern Lights being set off at once into now all of the rockets, which is to mean literal fireworks now. And you see he's getting closer to that idea of Gandalf's fireworks, All right, let's continue here. The bonfire made a hole in the ice and woke up the great seal, who happened to be underneath. The polar bear let off 20,000 silver sparklers afterwards, used up all my stock, so that is why I had none to send to you. Then he went for a holiday to North Norway and stayed with a woodcutter called Olaf, and came back with paw all bandaged just at the beginning of our busy times. Oh, you know what? I have to stop here because I just thought of something, because it mentioned Norway. Now, we have a few people in the chat, such as Dylan and Alice, who are channel members, Rednecks as well, and Coyote. A few people here are channel members. So if you guys saw the most recent video, which went up on yesterday on Christmas Eve, I didn't check because I included a little bit of a music video that was filmed in Norway. I didn't use the music, just the visuals. And I was like, I put it in a small window sort of right here, and just to show the Norwegian countryside and how I think of it as being sort of what I think of with Beleriand, actually. And you know what? I never checked to see if YouTube flagged me for copyright at all on that video. It looks like they didn't. It looks like it looks like it's fully good to go. Because I was like, I hope I don't get copyrighted, because if I do, I would have to re-edit where it's just some pictures or something. But, of course, in a video that I had to sit there and very quickly edit on Christmas Eve, afternoon, I was really like, oh my God, I really don't want to have to do this over again. And of course, the one that I'm doing on Christmas Eve, and I'm editing it all and putting it up very quickly, has to be one where I decide to get ambitious and put a video up instead of a picture. Okay, but I'm glad. Yeah, somebody asked me if I thought Canada would be a good setting, place to film Beleriand, and I said, well, Canada's beautiful, but personally, I think of Norway. All right, let's continue here. There seem more children than ever in England, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, and Germany, which are the countries I specially look after, and of course, North America and Canada, not to speak of getting stuff down to the South Pole for children who expect to be looked after, though they have gone to live in New Zealand or Australia or South Africa or China. It is a good thing clocks don't tell time the same all over the world, or I should never get round. Though when my magic is strongest at Christmas, I can do about 1,000 stockings a minute, if I have it all planned out beforehand. You can hardly guess the enormous piles of lists I make out. I seldom get them mixed. But I am rather worried this year. In my office and packing room, the polar bear reads out names while I copy them down. We had awful gales there, worse than you did, tearing clouds of snow to a million tatters, screaming like demons, burying my house almost up to the roofs. Just at the worst, the polar bear said it was stuffy, and opened a north window before I could stop him. You can guess the result. The North Polar Bear was buried in papers and lists, but that did not stop him laughing. Also, all my red and green ink was upset, as well as black, so I am writing in chalk and pencil. I have had some black ink left, and the polar bear is using it to address parcels. I liked all your letters, very much indeed, my dears. Nobody, or very few, writes so much or so nicely to me. I'm specially pleased with Christopher's card and his letters, and with his learning to write, so I am sending him a fountain pen, and also a special picture for himself. It shows me crossing the sea and the upper north wind, while the southwest gale, reindeer hate it, is raising big waves below. This must be all for now. I send you all my love. One more stocking to fill this year. I hope you will like your new house and the things I bring you, your old Father Christmas. So, of course, Priscilla was his fourth child and his final child, so there's not going to be any new additions after this. All right, moving on, we have a shorter one here. November 28th, 1930. Father Christmas has got all your letters. What a lot, especially from Christopher and Michael. Thank you, and also Reddy and your bears and other animals. I am just beginning to get awfully busy. Let me know more about what you specially want. Polar Bear sends love. He is just getting better. He has had whooping cough. Father Nicholas Christmas. All right, I need to drink some water here. All right, and then we get a longer one here. Top of the World, North Pole, Christmas 1930. Not finished until Christmas Eve, 24th December. My dears, I have enjoyed all your letters. I'm dreadfully sorry there has been no time to answer them, and even now I have not time to finish my picture for you properly or to send you a full, long letter that like I mean to. I hope you will like your stockings this year. I tried to find what you asked for, but the stores have been in rather a muddle. You see, the polar bear has been ill. He had whooping cough first of all. I could not let him help with the packing and sorting, which begins in November, because it would be simply awful if any of the children caught polar whooping cough and barked like bears on Boxing Day. So I had to do everything myself in the preparations. Of course, Polar Bear has done his best. He cleaned up and mended my sleigh and looked after the reindeer while I was busy. That is to say, that is how the really bad accident happened. Early this month we had a most awful snowstorm, nearly 6 feet of snow, followed by an awful fog. The poor polar bear went to the reindeer stables and got lost and nearly buried. I did not miss him or go to look for him for a long while. His chest had not got well from whooping cough, so this made him frightfully ill, and he was in bed until 3 days ago. Everything has gone wrong, and there has been no one to look after my messengers properly. Aren't you glad the polar bear is better? We had a party of snowboys, sons of snowmen, which are the only sort of people that live near. Not, of course, men made of snow, though my gardener, who is the oldest of all the snowmen, sometimes draws a picture of made snowmen instead of writing his name. And polar cubs, the polar bear's nephews, on Saturday, as soon as he felt well enough. He didn't eat much tea, but when the big cracker went off after, he threw away his rug and leaped in the air and has been well ever since. I've drawn you pictures of everything that happened. Polar Bear telling the story after all the tea things have been cleared away, me finding Polar Bear in the snow, and Polar Bear sitting with his feet in hot mustard and water to stop him shivering. It didn't, and he sneezed so terribly he blew 5 candles out. Still, he is all right now. I know, because he has been at his tricks again, quarreling with the snowman, my gardener, and pushing him through the roof of his snow house, and packing lumps of ice instead of presents in naughty children's parcels. That might be a good idea. Only he never told me, and some of them, with ice, were put in warm storerooms and melted all over good children's presents. Well, my dears, there is lots more I should like to say about my green brother and my old grandfather Yule, and why we were both called Nicholas after the saint whose day is December 6th, who used to give secret presents, sometimes throwing purses of money through the window. But I must hurry away. I am late already, and I am afraid you may not get this in time. Kisses to you all, Father Nicholas Christmas. P.S. Chris had no need to be frightened of me. Hot Dijon mustard, yes. To be the ultimate elitist. To soak your feet in hot Dijon mustard. Right, Alice? Okay. All right, we're moving along to 1931 here. Cliff House, October 31st. So this was sent out on Halloween, 1931. Dear children, already I have got some letters from you. You're getting busy early. I have not begun to think about Christmas yet. It has been very warm in the north this year, and there has been very little snow so far. We are just getting in our Christmas firewood. This is just to say my messengers will be coming around regularly now winter has begun. We shall be having a bonfire tomorrow, and I should like to hear from you. Saturday and Wednesday evenings are the best times to post to me. The polar bear is quite well and fairly good, though you never know what he will do when the Christmas rush begins. Send my love to John, your loving Father Nicholas Christmas. And then a note from the polar bear. Glad Father Christmas has waked up. He slept nearly all this hot summer. I wish he could have snow. My coat is quite yellow. Love, Polar Bear. Okay. That was a short one, but the next one is pretty long. Cliff House, North Pole, December 23rd, 1931. My dear children, I hope you will like the little things I have sent you. You seem to be most interested in railways just now, so I am sending you mostly things of that sort. I send as much love as ever, in fact more. We have both, the old polar bear and I, enjoyed having so many nice letters from you and your pets. If you think we have not read them, you are wrong. But if you find that not many of the things you asked for have come, and not perhaps quite as many sometimes, remember that this Christmas all over the world there are a terrible number of poor and starving people. I, and also my green brother, have had to do some collecting of food and clothes, and toys too, for the children whose fathers and mothers and friends cannot give them anything, sometimes not even dinner. I know yours won't forget you. So, my dears, I hope you will be happy this Christmas and not quarrel, and you have some good games with your railway all together. Don't forget old Father Christmas when you light your tree. Here comes the polar bear. Nor me. It has gone on being warm up here, as I told you. Not what you would call warm, but warm for the North Pole, with very little snow. The North Polar Bear, if you know who I mean, has been lazy and sleepy as a result, and very slow over packing, or any job except eating. He has enjoyed sampling and tasting the food parcels this year to see if they were fresh and good, he said. And to the polar bear, somebody has to, and I found stones in some of the currants. But that is not the worst. I should hardly feel it was Christmas if he didn't do something ridiculous. You will never guess what he did this time. I sent him down into one of my cellars, the cracker hole we call it, where I keep thousands of boxes of crackers. You would like to see them, rows upon rows, all with their lids off to show the kinds of colors. Well, I wanted 20 boxes, and was busy sorting soldiers and farm things, so I sent him. And he was so lazy he took 2 snowboys, who aren't allowed down there, to help him. They started pulling crackers out of boxes, and he tried to box them. The boys, ears, I mean, and they dodged, and he fell over, and he let his candle fall right poof into my firework, crackers, and boxes of sparklers. I could hear the noise and smell the smell in the hall, and when I rushed down, I saw nothing but smoke and fizzling stars, and old polar bear was rolling over on the floor with sparks sizzling on his coat. He has quite a bare patch burnt on his back. It looked fine. That's where Father Christmas spilled the gravy on my back at dinner. The snowboys roared with laughter and then ran away. They said it was a splendid sight, but they won't come to my party on St. Stephen's Day. They have had more than their share already. 2 of the polar bear's nephews have been staying here for some time. Paksu and Volkatuka. Fat and white hair, they say it means. They are fat-tummied polar cubs, and are very funny boxing one another and rolling about. But another time I shall have them on Boxing Day, and not just at packing time. I fell over them 14 times a day last week. And Valkatuka swallowed a ball of red string, thinking it was cake, and he got it all wound up inside, and had a tangled cough. He couldn't sleep at night, but I thought it rather served him right for putting holly in my bed. Oh, hold on, that doesn't sound like the right playlist there. Let's reset that there. That didn't sound right to me. It was the same cub that poured all the black ink yesterday into the fire to make night. It did, and a very smelly, smoky one. We lost Paxu all last Wednesday and found him on Thursday morning asleep in a cupboard in the kitchen. He had eaten 2 whole puddings raw. They seemed to be growing up just like their uncle. Not fair. Goodbye now. I shall soon be off in my travels once more. You need not believe any pictures you see of me in aeroplanes or motors. I cannot drive one, and I don't want to, and they are too slow anyway, not to mention smell. They cannot compare with my own reindeer, which I train myself. They are all very well this year, and expect my posts will be very good time. I have got some new young ones this Christmas from Lapland, a great place for wizards, but these are whizzers. Okay, hold on. My YouTube is not working properly here. See if I can get that going here. I'm sorry, guys. Just bear with me. I'm having a problem with the music. Because of course I am. Let's see. Can't seem to get it to play. Let's try just refreshing it. It's not working. All right, we'll just... Oh, wait, hold on. I think I might get it working. There we go. Okay. All right, we got it working. Sorry about that. Okay. Bad. One day I will send you a picture of my dear stables and harness houses. I am expecting that John, although he is now over 14, will hang up his stocking this last time, but I don't forget people even when they are past stocking age, not until they forget me. So I send love to you all, and especially little PM, who is beginning her stocking days, and I hope they will be happy. Your loving Father Christmas. P.S. This is all drawn by North Polar Bear. Don't you think he's getting better? But the green ink is mine, and he didn't ask about it. Okay, I do want to show you guys. I said that I wouldn't do this all that often, but I'll go over here. I'll show you guys this drawing that was supposedly drawn by the polar bear, and you can see some of the writing here, which is very similar to the sort of runic writing that you would see in The Hobbit later on. Of course, that's in English. I mean, you could clearly read what that says, but... Oh, thank you, Sid. I'm very experienced in it. I managed to get it working. Sometimes, you know what it is it's a little bit of Murphy's Law when it comes to streaming. There's a little bit of Murphy's Law. So you have to be well prepared. Okay, here's a short one. Cliff House, North Pole, November 30th, 1932. My dear children, thank you for your nice letters. I have not forgotten you. I am very late this year and very worried. A very funny thing has happened. The polar bear has disappeared and I don't know where he is. I have not seen him since the beginning of this month, and I'm getting anxious. Tomorrow, December, the Christmas month begins, and I don't know what I shall do without him. I am glad you are all well and your many pets. The Snow Babies' holiday begin tomorrow. I wish Polar Bear was here to look after them. Love to Michael, Christopher, and Priscilla. Please send John my love when you write to him. Father N. Christmas. Okay. And then this is followed by a rather lengthy one. So let's go to that. Cliff House, near the North Pole, December 23rd, 1932. My dear children, there was a lot to tell you. First of all, a Merry Christmas. But there have been lots of adventures you will want to hear about. It all began with funny noises underground, which started in the summer and got worse and worse. I was afraid an earthquake might happen. Okay, hold on, that's a bit loud. Let me lower that. Let's just lower that a bit. Okay, there we go. I'm sorry, it was a bit loud. The North Polar Bear... Oh, hold on. Yeah, the North Polar Bear says he suspected what was wrong from the beginning. I only wish he had said something to me. And anyway, it can't be quite true, as he was fast asleep when it began and did not wake up about till Michael's birthday. However, he went off for a walk one day at the end of November, I think, and never came back. About a fortnight ago, I began to be really worried. For after all, all, the dear old thing really is a lot of help in spite of accidents, and very amusing. One Friday evening, December 9th, there was a bumping at the front door and a snuffling. You got a tech scammer? That's never fun. Or sometimes it is if you want to mess with them. I thought he had come back and lost his key as often before, but when I opened the door, there was another very old bear there, a very fat and funny-shaped one. Actually, it was the eldest of the few remaining cave bears, old Mr. Cave Bear himself. I had not seen him for centuries. "Do you want your North Polar Bear?" he asked. "If you do, you'd better come and get him." It turned out he was lost in the caves belonging to Mr. Cave Bear, or so he says, not far from the ruins of my old house. He says he found a hole in the side of the hill and went inside because it was snowing. He slipped down a long slope, and lots of rock fell after him, and he found he could not climb up or get out again. But almost at once, he smelt goblin and became interested and started to explore. Not very wise, for of course goblins can't hurt him, but their caves are very dangerous. Naturally, he soon got quite lost, and the goblin shut off all the lights and made queer noises and false echoes. "Oh, darn, Sid, I'm sorry about that." Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay. "Goblins are to us very much what rats are to you, only worse because they're very clever, and only better because there are in these parts very few. We thought there were none left. Long ago we had great trouble with them. That was about 1453, I believe. But we got the help of the gnomes, who are their greatest enemies, and cleared them out. Anyway, there was old Polar Bear lost in the dark all among them, and all alone until he met Mr. Cave Bear, who lives there. Cave Bear can see pretty well in the dark, and he offered to take Polar Bear to his private back door. So they set off again, but the goblins were very excited and angry. Polar Bear had boxed one or two flat that came and poked him in the dark, and he had said some very nasty things to them all. And they enticed him away by imitating Cave Bear's voice, which of course they know very well. So Polar Bear got into a frightful, dark part, all full of different passages, and he lost Cave Bear, and Cave Bear lost him. Just a pause here, what does this remind you of? It's sort of like Bilbo lost under the Misty Mountains, isn't it? And of course, we're very close to the actual publication date of The Hobbit, so I think the children at this point might actually be reading this and thinking, that sounds familiar. We've heard this story before. This is the same kind of story my dad tells, So there you go. Light is even the aspect of the goblins imitating a voice to confuse the polar bear is a lot like what Gandalf did to the trolls earlier in the Hobbit. So you could sort of see. I would imagine if I was like Christopher or whoever reading this, I'd be like, this is very similar to the stories that Dad tells. "Light is what we need," said Cave Bear to me, so I got some of my special sparkling torches, which I sometimes use in my deepest cellars, and we set off that night. The caves are wonderful. I knew they were there, but not for how many or how big there were. Of course, the goblins went off in the deepest holes and corners, and we soon found Polar Bear. He was getting quite long and thin with hunger, as he had been in the caves about a fortnight. He said I should have been able to squeeze through a goblin crack. Polar Bear himself was astonished when I brought light, for the most remarkable thing is that the walls of those caves were all covered with pictures, cut into the rock or painted in red and brown and black. Some of them are very good, mostly of animals, and some are queer and some bad, and there are many strange marks, signs, and scribbles, some of which have a nasty look, and I am sure they have something to do with black magic. Cave Bear says the caves belong to him, and have belonged to him or his family since the days of his great multiplied by 10 grandfather. And the bears first had the idea of decorating the walls and used to scratch pictures on them in soft parts. It was useful for sharpening the claws. Then men came along. Imagine it. Cave Bear says there were lots about that time, long ago when the North Pole was somewhere else. That was long before my time, and I have never heard old Grandfather Yule mention it, so I don't know if he is talking nonsense or not. Many of the pictures were done by these cavemen, the best ones, especially the big ones, almost life-size of animals, some of which have since disappeared. There are dragons, and quite a number of mammoths. Men also put some of the black marks and pictures there, but the goblins have scribbled all over the place. They can't draw very well anyway. and they like nasty, queer shapes best. North Polar Bear got quite excited when he saw all of these things. He said, "These cave people draw better than you, Daddy Noel. And wouldn't your young friends just like to see some really good pictures, especially since properly drawn bears for a change?" Rather rude, I thought, if only a joke, as I take quite a lot of trouble over my Christmas pictures. Some of them take quite a minute to do. And though I only send them to special friends, I have a good many in different places. So just to show him and to please you, I have copied a whole page from the walls of the chief central cave and send you a copy. It is not, of course, quite as well drawn as the originals, which are very, very, very much larger, except the goblin parts, which are easy. They are the only parts the polar bear can do at all. He says he likes them best, but that is only because he can copy them. The goblin pictures must be very old, because the goblin fighters are sitting on drazzles, a very queer sort of dwarf Dachshund horse creature they used to have. But they died out long ago. I believe the red gnomes finished them off, somewhere about Edward IV's time. The animal drawings are magnificent. The hairy rhinoceros looks wicked. There is also a nasty look in the mammoth's eyes, also the ox, stag, bear, and cave bear, portrait of Mr. Cave Bear's 71st ancestor, he says, and some other kind of polarish but not quite polar bear. North Polar Bear would like to believe it is a portrait of one of his ancestors. Just under the bears is the best a goblin can do at drawing reindeer. You have been so good in writing to me, and such beautiful letters too, that I have tried to draw you some specially nice pictures this year. At the top of my Christmas card is a picture, imaginary, but more or less as it really is, of me arriving over Oxford. Your house is just about where the 3 little black points stick up out of the shadows on the right. I am coming from the north, and note, not with 12 pair of deer, as you will see in some books. I usually use 7 pair. 14 is such a nice number. And at Christmas, especially if I am hurried, I add my 2 special white ones in front. Next comes a picture of me and Cave Bear and North Polar Bear exploring the caves. I will tell you more about that in a minute. The last picture hasn't happened yet. It soon will. On St. Stephen's Day, when all the rush is over, I am going to have a rowdy party. The Cave Bear's grandchildren, they are exactly like live teddy bears, snow babies, some children of the red gnomes, and of course polar cubs, including Paksu and Volkatuka, will be there. I am wearing a pair of new green trousers. They were a present from my green brother, but I only wear them at home. Goblins, anyway, dislike green, so I find them useful. You see, when I rescued Polar Bear, we hadn't finished the adventures. At the beginning of last week, we went into the cellars to get up the stuff for England. I said to Polar Bear, "Somebody's been disarranging things here." "Paksu and Volkatuka, I expect," he said, but it wasn't. Next day, things were much worse, especially among the railway things, lots of which seemed to be missing. I ought to have guessed, and Polar Bear, anyway, ought to have mentioned his guess to me. Last Saturday, we went down and found nearly everything had disappeared out of the main cellar. Imagine my state of mind. Nothing hardly to send to anybody, and too little time to get or make anything new enough. North Polar Bear said, "I smell goblins strong." Of course, it was obvious. They love mechanical toys, though they quickly smash them and want more and more and more. And practically all the Hornby things had gone. Eventually, we found a large hole, but not big enough for us, leading to a tunnel behind some packing cases in the west cellar. As you will expect, we rushed off to find Cave Bear, and we went back to the caves. We soon understood the queer noises. It was plain goblins long ago burrowed a tunnel from the caves to my old home, which was not so far from the end of the hills, and had stolen a good many things. We found some things more than 100 years old, even a few parcels still addressed to your great-grand people. But they had been very clever and not too greedy, and I had not found out. Ever since I moved, they must have been busy burrowing all the way to my cliff, boring, banging, and blasting as quietly as they could. At last they reached the new cellars, and the sight of the Hornsby things was too much for them, and they took all they could. I dare say they were also still angry with the Polar Bear. Also, they thought we couldn't get at them. But I sent my patent green luminous smoke down the tunnel, and Polar Bear blew and blew it with enormous kitchen bellows. They simply shrieked and rushed at the other cave end. But there were red gnomes there. I had I had especially sent for them. A few of the really old families are still in Norway. They captured hundreds of goblins and chased many more into the snow, which they hate. We made them show us where they had hidden things, or bring them all back again, and by Monday we had got practically everything back. The gnomes are still dealing with the goblins, and promise there won't be one left by New Year, but I am not so sure. They will crop up again in a century or so, I expect. We have had a rush, but dear old Cave Bear and his sons and the gnome ladies helped, so that we are now very well forward and packed, and I hope there is not the faintest smell of goblin about any of your things. They have all been well aired. There are still a few railway things missing, but I hope you will have what you want. I am not able to carry quite as much toy cargo as usual this year, as I am making a good deal of food and clothes, useful stuff. There are far too many people in your land and others who are hungry and cold this winter. I am glad that with you the weather is warmish. It is not warm here. We have had tremendous icy winds and terrific snowstorms, and my old house is quite buried. But I am feeling very well, better than ever, and though my hand wobbles with a pen, partly because I don't like writing as much as drawing, which I learned first, I don't think it is so wobbly this year. The polar bear got your father's scribble today and was very puzzled by it. I told him it looked like old lecture notes, and he laughed. He says he thinks Oxford is quite a mad place if people lecture such stuff, but I don't suppose anybody listens to it. The drawings pleased him better. He said at any rate, those boys' father tried to draw bears, though they aren't good. Of course it is all nonsense. But I will answer it. So he made up an alphabet from the marks in the caves. He says it is much nicer than the ordinary bears, or that runes and polar bears, and suits his paw better. He writes them with the tail of his penholder. He has sent a short letter to you in this alphabet to wish you a Merry Christmas, and lots of fun in the New Year, and good luck at school. As you are all so clever now, he says, what with Latin and French and Greek, you will easily read it, and see that Polar Bear sends much love. I am not so sure. Anyway, I dare say he would send you a copy of his alphabet if you wrote and asked. By the way, he writes it in columns from top to bottom, not across. Don't tell him I gave away his secret. This is one of my very longest letters. It has been an exciting time. I hope you will like hearing about it. I sent you all my love, John, Michael, Christopher, and Priscilla, also Mummy and Daddy, and Auntie, and all the people in your house. I dare say John will feel he has got to give up stockings now, and give way to the many new children that have arrived since he first began to hang his up. But Father Christmas will not forget him. Bless you all, your loving Nicholas Christmas. It's not so much their New Year. It's supposed to commemorate the awakening of Durin, but it did come to mean, a certain, I believe, almost a solstice type situation, And Thorin explains it better than I ever could. But Durin's Day is really only relevant in The Hobbit. They don't really get much into it in anything else. But it's not so much their New Year's, no. The calendars at that point in time were pretty all similar. I mean, everybody figured out differently where they were going to hack up the months, how many days in each month and whatnot, and how to handle leap years, and especially the Gondor calendar and the Shire calendar being different. But the dwarves' calendar, you'll notice, is actually pretty identical to the Shire one. All right. That was a very long letter. And if you guys want to see the alphabet, I promise I won't get stuck on this screen this time. I will show that. There's the alphabet drawn by the North Polar Bear of the cave drawing runes there. So, didn't mean to do that. You could see that there. Okay, let's make sure we go back here, and then I don't get stuck at the stream starting soon screen. Let's move on to 1933. This is a short one. Near North Pole, December 2nd, 1933. Dear people, very cold here at last. Business has really begun. We are working hard. I have had a good many letters from you. Thank you. I have made notes of what you want so far, but I expect I shall hear more from you yet. I am rather short of messengers. The goblins have, but I haven't time to tell you about our excitements now. I hope I shall find time to send a letter later. Give John my love when you see him. I send love to you all, and a kiss for Priscilla. Tell her my beard is quite nice and soft, as I have never shaved. 3 weeks to Christmas Eve. Yours, Father Nicholas Christmas. And from the polar bear, cheer up, chaps. Also chaplet, if that's the feminine. The fun's beginning. Yours, polar bear. Okay, and then we have another long one, not quite as long as that last letter that we read, that not the last one, the one before that, but a nice long one here. You'd have no problem changing to Hobbit calendar. I mean, the Hobbit calendar actually becomes, if you look at it, it's very logical in the way that they handle the holidays and everything, so that the holidays always fall on the same day of the week, you know. So I think that, you know, and believe it or not, the Hobbit calendar was adapted from the Númenórean calendar. So it's just that they didn't change their calendars, whereas Gondor did. So the Hobbit calendar is actually the more traditional one. All right. Cliff House, near the North Pole, December 21st, 1933. My dears, another Christmas, and I almost thought at one time in November that there would not be one this year. There would be a 25th of December, of course, but nothing from your old great etc. grandfather at the North Pole. Goblins, the worst attack we have had for century. They have been fearfully wild and angry ever since we took all their stolen toys after them last year and closed them and dosed them down with green smoke. You remember the red gnomes promised to clear all of them out. There was not one to be found in any hole or cave by New Year's Day. But I said they would crop up again in a century or so. They have not waited so long. They must have gathered their nasty friends from mountains all over the world and have been busy all summer while we were at our sleepiest. This time we had very little warning. Soon after All Saints' Day, Polar Bear gets very restless, but now says he smelt nasty smells. For as usual, he did not say anything. He says he did not want to trouble me. He really is a nice old thing, and this time he absolutely saved Christmas. He took to sleeping in the kitchen, with his nose toward the cellar door opening on the main stairway down into my big stores. One night, just about Christopher's birthday, I woke up suddenly. There was squeaking and spluttering in the room and a nasty smell in my own best green and purple room that I had just done up most beautifully. I caught sight of a wicked little face at the window. Then I really was upset, for my window was high up above the cliff, and that meant there were bat-riding goblins about, which we haven't had since the Goblin War in 1453 that I told you about. I was only just quite awake when a terrific din began far downstairs, in the store cellars. It would take too long to describe, so I tried to draw a picture of what I saw when I got down, after treading on a goblin on the mat. Only there was more like 1,000 goblins than 15. But you could hardly expect me to draw 1,000. Polar Bear was squeezing, squashing, trampling, boxing, and kicking goblins sky high and roaring like a zoo, and the goblins were yelling like engine whistles. He was splendid, say no more. I enjoyed it immensely. Well, it is a long story. The trouble lasted for over a fortnight, and it began to look as if I should never be able to get my sleigh out this year. The goblins had set part of the stores on fire and captured several gnomes who sleep down there on guard before Polar Bear and many more gnomes came in and killed 100 before I arrived. Even when we had put the fire out and cleared the cellars and house, I can't think what they were doing in my room unless they were trying to set fire to my bed. The trouble went on. The ground was black with goblins under the moon when we looked out, and they had broken up my stables and gone off with the reindeer. I had to blow my goblin trumpet, which I have not done in many years, to summon all my friends. There were several battles. Every night they used to attack and set fire to the stores before we got the upper hand, and I'm afraid quite a lot of my dear elves got hurt. Fortunately, we have not lost much except my best string, gold and silver, and packing papers and holly boxes. I'm very short of these, and I've been very short of messengers. Lots of my people are still away. I hope they will come back safe, chasing the goblins out of my land, those that are left alive. They have rescued all my reindeer. We are quite happy and settled again now, and feel much safer. It really will be centuries before we get another goblin trouble. Thanks to Polar Bear and the gnomes, there can't be very many left at all. And, Father Christmas, I wish I could draw or had time to try. You have no idea what the old man can do. Lightning and fireworks and thunder of guns. Polar Bear certainly has been busy helping and double help, but he has mixed up some of the girls' things with the boys in his hurry. We hope we have got it all sorted out, but if you hear of anyone getting a doll when they wanted an engine, you will know why. Actually, Polar Bear tells me I am wrong. We did lose a lot of railway stuff. Goblins always go for that. And what we got back was damaged and will have to be repainted. It will be a busy summer next year. Now, a Merry Christmas to you all once again. I hope you will all have a very happy time, and will find that I have taken notice of your letters and sent you what you wanted. I don't think my pictures are very good this year, though I took quite a time over them, at least 2 minutes. Polar Bear says, I don't see that a lot of stars and pictures of goblins in your bedroom are so frightfully merry. Still, I hope you won't mind. It is rather good of Polar Bear kicking, really. Anyway, I send lots of love. Yours, ever and annually, Father Nicholas Christmas. Thank you. Thank you very much there, Bob. Oh, you're a friend of Sid's. Wonderful, wonderful. Absolutely, yes. It is. He's been doing this throughout, these years now, where he's sort of like telling a similar story to The Hobbit, a little bit of the ideas that he had in The Lord of the Rings as well, but especially The Hobbit, of all the different goblin tribes coming together and attacking a single location, And like I said, I wonder if the children were like, I think Dad's writing these, it's just like his book. All right, let's move on here. To 1934. To messenger, deliver at once and don't stop on the way. At once, urgent express. My dear Christopher, thank you. I am awake and have been for a long while, but my post office does not really open ever until Michaelmas. I shall not be sending my messengers out regularly this year until about October 15th. There is a good deal to do up here. Your telegram, that is why I have sent an express reply, and letter and Priscilla's were found quite by accident, not by a messenger, but by Bellman. I don't know how he got that name because he never rings any. He is my chimney inspector and always begins work as soon as the first fires are lit. Very much love to you and Priscilla. The polar bear, if you remember him, is still fast asleep and quite thin after so much fasting. He will soon cure that. I shall tickle his ribs and wake him up soon, and then he will eat several months' breakfast all in one. More love, your loving Father Christmas. Okay, and then we move on to another good-sized one, not quite the epic that we had before, but another good-sized one. Cliff House, North Pole, Christmas Eve, 1934. My dear Christopher, thank you very much for your many letters. I have not had time this year to write you so long a letter as 1932 and 1933, but nothing at all exciting has happened. I hope I have pleased you with the things I am bringing and that they are near enough to your lists. Very little news. After the frightful business of last year, there has not been even a smell of goblin for 200 miles round. But as I said it would, it took us far into the summer to repair all the damage, and we lost a lot of sleep and rest. When November came round, we did not feel like getting to work, and we were rather slow, and so have been rushed at the end. Also, it has been unusually warm for the North Pole, and the polar bear still keeps on yawning. Palsu and Valkatuka have been here a long time. They have grown a good deal, but still get up to frightful mischief in between times of trying to help. This year they stole my paints and painted scrolls on the white walls of the cellars, ate all the mincemeat out of the pies made ready for Christmas, and only yesterday went and unpacked half the parcels to find railway things to play with. They don't get on well with the cave cubs, somehow. Several of these have arrived today, and are staying here a few nights with old Cave Brown Cave, who is their uncle, granduncle, grandfather, great-granduncle, etc. Palsu is also kicking them because they squeak and grunt so funnily. Polar Bear has to box him often, and a box from Polar Bear is no joke. As there are no goblins about, and as there is no wind, and so far much less snow than usual, we are going to have a great Boxing Day party ourselves, out of doors. I shall ask 100 elves and red gnomes, lots of polar cubs, cave cubs and snow babies, and of course Palsu and Volkatuka and Polar Bear and Cave Bear and his nephews, etc. will be there. We have bought a tree all the way from Norway and planted it in a pool of ice. My picture gives you no idea of its size, or of the loveliness of its magic lights of different colors. We tried them yesterday evening to see if they were all right. If you see a bright glow in the north, you will know what it is. Oh, that's cool, Alice. Behind the tree are snow plants, and piled masses of snow made into ornamental shapes. They are purple and black because of darkness and shadow. There is also a special edging to the ice pool, and it is made of real colored icing. Paksu and Volkatuka are already nibbling at it, though they should not, till the party. Polar Bear started to draw this to help me as I was busy, but he dropped such blots, enormous ones, I had to come to the rescue. Not very good this year. Never mind, perhaps better next year. I hope you will like your presents and be very happy. Your loving Father Christmas. P.S. I really can't remember exactly in what year I was born. I doubt if anybody knows. I am always changing my own mind about it. Anyway, it was 1934 years ago, or jolly near that. Bless you. FCPPS, give my love to Mick and John. Polar Bear love, busy, thanks. So, I had mentioned earlier that when he wrote to John, he had answered that his age was a certain amount. And then a few years later, he sent a slightly different age. And I told you, Christopher, he catches these things. He probably started looking through these old letters and cross-referencing them and everything. Now here he says he's this age, and here he says he's younger. How can that be? And he must have written to Father Christmas because, that's how, The Hobbit started, really, with all these stories that Tolkien was telling to his children, and then little Christopher says, last time you told me that Balin's hood was blue, and now you're saying it's green, so which is it? That kind of thing. And that's why Tolkien had to start writing things down. But here you can see he just makes the excuse of, I don't even really know when I was born. I just make it up as I go along. So we've got another long one here. December 24th, 1935, North Pole, my dear children. Here we are again. Christmas seems to come round pretty soon again, always much the same and always different. No ink this year and no water, so no painted pictures, also very cold hands, so very wobbly riding. Last year it was very warm, but this year it is frightfully cold. Snow, 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 and ice. We have been simply buried. Messengers have got lost and found themselves in Nova Scotia, if you know where that is, instead of in Scotland. And PB, if you know who that is, could not get home. This is a picture of my house about a week ago before we got the reindeer shed dug out. We had to make a tunnel to the front door. There are only 3 windows upstairs shining through holes, and there is steam where the snow is melting off the dome and roof. There is a view from my bedroom window. Of course, snow coming down is not blue, but blue is cold. You can understand why your letters were slow in going. I hope I got them all. And anyway, that the right things arrived from you. Poor old PB, if you know who I mean, had to go away soon after the snow began last month. There was some trouble in his family, and Paksu and Volatuka were ill. He is very good at doctoring anybody but himself. But it is dreadfully long way over the ice and snow to North Greenland, I believe. When he got there, he could not get back. So I have been rather held up, especially at the reindeer stables, and the outdoor store sheds are snowed over. I have had a lot of red elves to help me. They are very nice and great fun, but although they are very quick, they don't get on fast. For they turn everything into a game, even digging snow, and they will play with the toys until they are supposed to be packing. PB, if you remember him, did not get back until Friday, December 13th, so that proved a lucky day for me after all. Hear, hear. Even he had to wear a sheepskin coat and red gloves for his paws, and he got a hood on and red gloves. He thinks he looks rather like Rye St. Anthony, but of course he does not very much. Anyway, he carries things in his hood. He brought home his sponge and soap in it. He says that we have not seen the last of the goblins in spite of the battles in 1933. They won't dare to come into my land yet, but for some reason they are breeding again and multiplying all over the world. Quite a nasty outbreak. But there are not so many in England, he says. I expect I shall have trouble with them soon. I have given my elves some new magic sparkler spears that will scare them out of their wits. It is now December 24th, and they have not appeared this year, and practically everything is packed up and ready. I shall be starting soon. I send you all, John and Michael and Christopher and Priscilla, all my love and good wishes this Christmas. Tons of good wishes. Pass on a few if you don't want them all. Polar Bear, in case you don't know what PB is, sends his love to you, and to the Bingos, and to Orange Teddy, and to Jubilee. Oh yes, I learn lots of news even in snowy weather. My messages will be about until the new year if you want to write and tell me everything was all right. I hope you enjoy the pantomime. Your loving Father Christmas. P.S. Puxu and Volatuka are well again, only mumps. They will be at my big party on St. Stephen's Day with other polar cubs, cave cubs, snow babies, elves, and all the rest. I just love the idea of polar bears with mumps. I don't think the polar bears can get mumps in real life, but that's, yeah. Let's see. I read that right. Deepest thanks. Past your bedtime. Pick up the recording before Epiphany. Okay. Surely. This video, since I'm just doing this as a fun little Christmas thing, I'm not going to have it be a members only thing for any amount of time. This is going to be available right away on YouTube, so everybody could watch it. Because it's a Christmas thing. If I made everybody wait until next year, that wouldn't be very Christmassy, would it? All right, here's the next one. Cliff House, North Pole, Wednesday, December 23rd, 1936. My dear children, I am sorry I cannot send you a long letter to thank you for yours, but I am sending you a picture which will explain a good deal. It is a good thing your change list arrived before these awful events, or I could not have done anything about it. I do hope you will like what I am bringing, and will forgive any mistakes, and I hope nothing will still be wet. I am still so shaky and upset I am getting one of my elves to write a bit more about these things. I send very much love to you all. Then we switch to the elf. Father Christmas says you will want to hear some news. Polar Bear has been quite good, or has been, though he has been rather tired. So is Father Christmas. I think the Christmas business is getting rather too much for them. So a lot of us, red and green elves, have gone to live permanently at Cliff House and be trained in the packing business. It was Polar Bear's idea. He also invented the number system so that every child that Father Christmas deals with has a number, and we elves learn them all by heart, and all the addresses. That saves a lot of writing. So many children have had the same name that every pocket used to have the address as well. Polar Bear said, I'm going to have a record year and help Father Christmas to get so forward we can have some fun ourselves on Christmas Day. We all worked hard, and you will be surprised to hear that every single parcel was packed and numbered by Saturday, December 19th. And Polar Bear said, I am tired out. I'm going to have a hot bath and go to bed early. Well, you can guess what happened. Father Christmas was taking a last look round in the English delivery room about 10 o'clock when water poured through the ceiling and swamped everything. It was soon 6 inches deep on the floor. Polar Bear had simply got into the bath with both taps running and gone fast asleep with one hind paw on the overflow. He had been asleep 2 hours when we woke him. Father Christmas was really angry, but Polar Bear only says, I did have a jolly dream. I dreamt I was diving off a melting iceberg and chasing seals. He said later, when he saw the damage, well, there is one thing. Those children at North Pole Road, Oxford, he always says that, may lose some of their presents, but they will have a letter worth hearing this year. They can see a joke even if none of you can. That made Father Christmas angrier, and Polar Bear said, well, draw a picture of it and ask them if it is funny or not. So Father Christmas has. But he has begun to think it funny, although very annoying, himself, now that we've cleared up the mess and got the English presents repacked again, just in time. We are all rather tired, so please excuse scrawly writing. Yours, Ilbrith, Secretary to Father Christmas. Very sorry. Been busy. Can't find the alphabet. Will look after Christmas and post it. Yours, Polar Bear. Oh, we should paywall the video behind 40,000 ounces of gold per person that wants to watch it. I don't think I'll do that, but that's rather funny. Okay. Oh boy, oh boy. All right, let's move on. We're getting kind of near to the end here, so here's a shorter letter here. Let's see. I have found it. I sent you a copy. You needn't fill in the black parts if you don't want to. It takes rather long to write, but I think it's rather clever. Still busy. Father Christmas says I can't have a bath till next year. Love to you both because you see jokes. Polar Bear. I got into hot water, didn't I? Ha, ha. Hans Gruber's brother will enjoy watching. Simon Gruber. Yes. Simon Gruber. All right. Let's see. Here's the next one. Let's see. This one's a little long. Cliff House, North Pole, Christmas 1937. My dear Christopher and Priscilla and other friends in Oxford, here we are again. Of course, I am always here when not traveling, but you know what I mean. Christmas again. I believe it is 17 years since I started to write to you. I wonder if you have still got all my letters. I have not been able to keep quite all yours, but I have got some from every year. We had quite a fright this year. No letters came from you. Then one day, early in December, I sent a messenger who used to go to Oxford a lot, but has not been there for a long while, and he said to me, their house is empty and everything is sold. I was afraid something had happened, or that you had gone to school in some other town, and your father and mother had moved. Of course, I know now the messenger had been to your old house next door. He complained that all the windows were shut and the chimneys all blocked up. I was very glad to get Priscilla's first letter, and your 2 nice letters, and useful lists and hints since Christopher came back. I quite understand that school makes it difficult for you to write like you used. And of course I have new children coming on my lists each year so that I don't get less busy. Tell your father I am sorry about his eyes and throat. I once had my eyes very bad from snow blindness, which comes from looking at sunlit snow, but it got better. I hope Priscilla and your mother and everyone else will be well on December 25th. I am afraid I have not had time to draw you a picture this year. You see, I strained my hand moving heavy boxes in the cellars in November, and could not start my letters until later than usual, and my hand still gets tired quickly. But Ilbreth, one of the cleverest elves, whom I took on as a secretary not long ago, is becoming very good. He can write several alphabets now: Arctic, Latin, that is ordinary European like you use, Greek, Russian, runes, and of course Elvish. His writing is a bit thin and slanting. He has a very slender hand, and his drawing is a bit scratchy, I think. He won't use paints. He says he is a secretary, and so only uses ink and pencil. He is going to finish this letter for me, as I have to do some others. So I will now send you lots of love. And I do hope that I have chosen the best things out of your suggestion lists. I was going to send Hobbits. I am sending away loads, mostly second editions, which I sent for only a few days ago. But I thought you would have lots, so I am sending another Oxford fairy story. Lots and lots of love, Father Christmas. I just to pause there because it continues with Ilbreth, but I just love that he said, I'm sending out copies of The Hobbit to everybody, but you guys, I have a feeling you already have a bunch of those, so I'll send something else. Dear children, I am Ilbreth. I have written to you before. I am finishing for Father Christmas. Shall I tell you about my pictures? Polar Bear and Volkatuka and Paxu are always lazy after Christmas, or rather after St. Stephen's Day party. Father Christmas is ringing for breakfast in vain. Another day when Polar Bear, as usual, was late. Not true. Paxu threw a bath sponge full of icy water at his face. Polar Bear chased him all round the house and round the garden, and then forgave him, because he had not caught Paxu, but had found a huge appetite. We had terrible weather at the end of winter and actually had rain. We could not go out for days. I could have drawn Polar Bear and his nephews when they did venture out. I have drawn Polar Bear and his nephews when they did venture out. Paxu and Volkatuka have never gone away. They like it so much that they have begged to stay. It was much too warm at the North Pole this year. A large lake formed at the bottom of the cliff and left the North Pole standing on an island. I have drawn a view looking south, so the cliff... I think every direction is south where they're... So the cliff is on the other side. It was about midsummer. The North Polar Bear, his nephews, and lots of polar clubs used to come and bat and bathe. Also seals. North Polar Bear took to trying to paddle a boat or canoe, but he fell in so often that the seals thought he liked it, and used to get under the boat and tip it up. That made him annoyed. The sport did not last long, as the water froze again early in August. Then we began to think of that this Christmas. In my picture, Father Christmas is dividing up the lists and giving my special lot. You are in it. North Polar Bear, of course, always pretends to be managing everything. That's why he is pointing, but I am really listening to Father Christmas, and am saluting him, not the North Polar Bear. Rude little errand boy. We had a glorious bonfire and fireworks to celebrate the coming of winter and the beginning of real preparations. The snow came down very thick in November, and the elves and snowboys had several tobogganing half-holidays. The polar cubs were not very good at it. They fell off, and most of them took to rolling or sliding down just on themselves. Today, but this is the best bit, I had just finished my picture, or I thought I might have drawn it differently. And better. Polar Bear was being allowed to decorate a big tree in the garden all by himself and the ladder. Suddenly, I heard terrible growly, squealy noises. We rushed out to find Polar Bear hanging on the tree himself. "You are not a decoration," said Father Christmas. "Anyway, I am all right," he shouted. He was. We threw a bucket of water over him, which spoilt a lot of the decoration, but saved his fur. The silly old thing had rested the ladder against a branch instead of the trunk of the tree. Then he thought, I will just light the candles to see if they're working, although he was told not to do that. So he climbed to the tip of the ladder with a taper. Just then the branch cracked, the ladder slipped on the snow, and Polar Bear fell into the tree and caught on some wire, and his fur caught on fire. Poor joke. Luckily he was rather damp, or he might have fizzled. I wonder if roast polar bear is good to eat. Not as good as well-spanked and fried elf. The last picture is imaginary and not very good, but I hope it will come true. It will if Polar Bear behaves. I hope you could read my writing. I try to write like dear old Father Christmas without the trembles, but I cannot do so well. I can write Elvish better. That is some. But Father Christmas, as I write, even that too spidery, and you would never read it. Love, Ilberith. A big hug and lots of love. Enormous thanks for letters. I don't get many, though I work so hard. I am practicing new writing with lovely thick pen. Quicker than Arctic. I invented it. Ilberith is cheeky. How are the bingos? A Merry Christmas, North Polar Bear. He could use a Coca-Cola. Precisely. Now, what's interesting, if you think of the language of Arctic, and you think of the etymology of the word, it's essentially bearish. It's bearish, because Arctic refers to bears, and Antarctic would refer to no bears. So there you go. So Arctic language is bearish. Now this one isn't going to translate terribly well because it's a lot more pictures than text, but I will do my best here to read it to you. Cliff House, North Pole, Christmas 1938. My dear Priscilla and all the others in your house. Here we are again. Bless me. I believe I said that before, but after all, you don't want Christmas to be different each year, do you? I am frightfully sorry that I haven't had the time to draw any big picture this year, and Ilberith, my secretary, has not done one either, but we're all sending you some rhymes instead. Some of my other children seem to like rhymes, so perhaps you will. We have all been very sorry to hear about Christopher. I hope he is better and will have a jolly Christmas. I only heard lately when my messengers and letter collectors came back from Oxford. Tell him to cheer up, and although he is growing up and leaving stockings behind, I shall bring a few things along this year. Among them is a small astronomy book, which gives a few hints on the use of telescopes. Thank you for telling me he had got one. Dear me, my hand is shaky. I hope you could read some of this. I loved your long letter with all the amusing pictures. Give my love to your bingos and all the other 60 or more, especially Raggies and Predley and Tinker and Tailor, Jubilee and Snowball. I hope you will go on writing to me for a long while yet. Very much love to you and lots to Chris from Father Christmas. Okay. So let's... Sorry, I'm scrolling here. It's quite a bit to scroll through. Here we are. Okay, so here are the rhymes. Again this year, my dear Priscilla, when you're asleep upon your pillow. Bad rhyme, that's beaten you. Beside your bed, old Father Christmas. The English language has no rhyme for Father Christmas. That's why I'm not very good at making verses. But when I find a good deal worse is that girls' and boys' names won't rhyme either, and bother either won't rhyme neither. So please forgive me, dear Priscilla, if I pretend you rhyme with pillow. She won't. As I was saying. Beside your bed, old Father Christmas, afraid that any creak or hiss must... How's that? Out! Wake you up. We'll in a twinkling fill your stocking. I've an inkling that it belongs in fact to Patter, but never mind. At 12 or later he will arrive, and hopes once more that he is chosen from his store. I did it. Of things you want. You're 9:30. She's not a clock. but still I hope you'll drop a line, for some years let it won't forget that old Father Christmas and his pet, the North Polar Bear and Polar Cubs, as far as little battle nubs, tubs, and snowboys and elves, in fact the whole of my household, up near the pole. Upon my list made in December, your number is, if you remember, 56,785. It can't be wondered. Weak. At that I am so busy. When you think that you're nearly 10, and in time my list has grown by quite 10,000 girls alone, even when I've subtracted all the houses where I no longer call. You will all wonder what's the news if all has gone well, and if not, who's to blame, and whether Polar Bear has earned a mark good, bad, or fair for his behavior since last winter. Well, first he trod upon a splinter, just rhyming nonsense, it was a nail, and rusty too, and went on crutches in November, and then one cold day in December he burnt his nose and singed his paw upon the kitchen grate, because, within the help of tongs, he tried to roast hot chestnuts. Wow, he cried, I never did, and used a pound of butter best to cure the burns. He would not rest. I was not given a chance. But on the 23rd he went and climbed upon the roof. He meant to clear the snow away that choked the chimney up. Of course he poked his legs right through the tiles and snow. In tons fell on his bed below. He has broken saucers, cups, and plates, and eaten lots of chocolates. He's dropped large boxes on my toes, and trodden tin soldiers flat in rows. You need not believe all this. You need. He's overwound engines and broken springs and mixed up different children's things. He's thumbed new books and burst balloons and scribbled lots of smudgy runes on my best paper and wiped his feet, and scarves and hankies folded neat. And yet he has been, on the whole, a very kind and willing soul. He's fetched and carried, counted, packed, and for a week he's never slacked. Here, here. I wish you wouldn't scribble on my nice rhyme. He's climbed the cellar stairs at best 5,000 times, the dear old beast. Paksu sends love and Volatuka. They are still with me, and they don't look a year older, but they're just a bit more wise and have a pinch more wit. The goblins, you'll be glad to hear, have not been here all this year. Not near the pole, but I am told they're moving south and getting bold, and coming back to many lands, and making, with their wicked hands, new mines and caves. But do not fear, they'll hide away when I appear. Christmas Day. Now Christmas Day has come round again. My poor North Polar Bear has got a bad pain. They say he swallowed a couple of pounds of nuts without cracking the shells, it sounds. A Polarist sort of thing to do, but that isn't all between me and you. He's eaten a ton of various goods and recklessly mixed all his favorite foods. Honey with ham and turkey with treacle and pickles with milk. I think that a week'll need to be put the old bear on his feet. And I mustn't forget his particular treat, plum pudding with sausages and Turkish delight, covered with cream and devoured in a bite. And after this dish he stood on his head. It's rather a wonder the poor fellow's not dead. Absolute rot. I have not got a pain in my pot, rude fellow. Now I do not eat turkey or meat. I stick to the sweet, which is why, as all knows, I am so sweet myself. You thinuous elf, goodbye. He means fatuous. No, I don't. You're not fat. You're thin and silly. You know my friends too well to think, although they're rather rude with ink, that here are rather quarrels there. We've had a very jolly year, except for Polar Bear's rusty nail. But now this rhyme must catch the mail. A special messenger must go, in spite of thickly falling snow, or else this won't get drawn to you on Christmas Day. It's 2:30. We've quite a lot of crackers still to pull, and glasses still to fill. Our love to you in this Noel, and till the next one, fare you well. Father Christmas, Polar Bear, Ilberith, Paksu, and Volkatuka. All right, that one nearly killed me. I feel like that one nearly killed me. It was fun, though. I love the Polar Bear roasting the rhymes in the middle of it, you know? All right. Cliff House, North Pole, December 24th, 1939. My dearest Priscilla, I am glad you managed to send me 2 letters, though you have been rather busy working. I hope your Bingo family will have a jolly Christmas and behave themselves. Tell Billy isn't that not the father's name, not to be so cross. They are not to quarrel over the crackers I am sending. I am very busy and things are very difficult this year owing to this horrible war. Many of my messengers have never come back. I haven't been able to do you a very nice picture this year. It is supposed to show me carrying things down on new path to the sleigh sheds. Huxley was in front with a torch, looking most frightfully pleased with himself as usual. There was just a glimpse, quite enough, of Polar Bear strolling along ahead. He is, of course, carrying nothing. There has been no adventures here, and nothing funny has happened, and that is because Polar Bear has done hardly anything to help, as he calls it this year. Rot! I don't think he's been lazier than usual, but he has not been all well. He ate some fish that disagreed with him last November, and was afraid he might have to go to hospital in Greenland. But after living in warm water for a fortnight, he suddenly threw his glass and jug out the window and decided to get better. He drew the trees in the picture, and I'm afraid they are not very good. Best part of it. They look more like umbrellas. Still, he sends his love to you and all your bears. Why don't you have polar cubs instead of bingos and koalas, he asks. Why not? Give my love to Christopher and Michael and to John when you next write. Love from Father Christmas. At least it's not the George R.R. Martin's Christmas letter. See, if George R.R. Martin wrote this, Santa Claus wouldn't just mention World War II in passing. He'd be out fighting in it or something, and committing some horrible war crimes or something like that. Okay. All right, let's move on here. There's not a whole lot left, but we're getting near the end. Here we are. Actually, is this the last one? No, it's not the last one. Hold on. Let me see. What year do we go to here? Because I know it ends in the 1940s. I just want to see where we stop. Okay, so the last year is 1943. So we're getting there. So, all right. So here we are. Cliff House near North Pole. Christmas Eve, 1940. My dearest Priscilla. Just a short letter to wish you a very happy Christmas. Please give my love to Christopher. We are having rather a difficult time this year. This horrible war is reducing all our stocks, and in so many countries, children are living far from their homes. Polar Bear has had a very busy time trying to get our address list corrected. I'm glad you're still at home. I wonder what you will think of my picture. Penguins don't live at the North Pole, you will say. I know they don't, but we've got some all the same. What you would call evacuees, I believe. Not a very nice word, except that they did not come here to escape the war, but to find it. They had heard such stories of the happenings up in the north, including a quite untrue story that Polar Bear and all the polar cubs had been blown up, and that I had been captured by goblins, that they swarm all the way here to see if they could help me. Nearly 50 arrived. The picture is of Polar Bear dancing with their chiefs. They amuse us enormously. They don't really help much, but you're always playing funny dancing games and trying to imitate the walk of Polar Bear and the cubs. Very much love from your old friend, Father Christmas. Okay. Here's our next one. Let's see. This one's a bit longer. Cliff House near stump of North Pole, December 22nd, 1941. My dearest Priscilla, I am so glad you did not forget to write me again this year. The number of children who keep up with me seems to be getting smaller. I expect it is because of this horrible war, and that when it is over, things will improve again, and I shall be as busy as ever. But at present, so terribly many people have lost their homes, or have left them, half the world seems to be in the wrong place. And even up here we are having troubles. I don't mean only with my stores, of course they are getting low. They were all ready last year, and I have not been able to fill them up, so that I have to now send what I can instead of what is asked for, but worse than what has happened. I expect you remember that some years ago we had trouble with the goblins, and we thought that we had settled it. Well, it broke out again this autumn, worse than it has been for centuries. We have had several battles, and for a while my house was besieged. In November, it began to look likely that it would be captured and all my goods, and that Christmas stockings would remain empty all over the world. Would not that have been a calamity? It has not happened, and that is largely due to the efforts of Polar Bear. And me, that's me. but it was not until the beginning of this month that I was able to send out any messengers. I expect the goblins thought that with so much war going on, this was a fine chance to recapture the north. They must have been preparing for some years, and they made a huge new tunnel which had an outlet many miles away. It was early on Christmas, and they suddenly came in the thousands. Polar Bear said there were at least 1 million, but that is his favorite big number. There were at least 100 million. Anyway, he was still fast asleep at the time, and I was rather drowsy myself. The weather was rather warm for this time of year, and Christmas seemed far away. There were only 1 or 2 elves about the place, and of course Paxu and Volatuka also fast asleep. The penguins had all gone away in the spring. Luckily, goblins cannot help yelling and beating on drums when they mean to fight, so we all woke up in time and got the gates and doors barred and the windows shuttered. Polar Bear got on the roof and fired rockets into the goblin host, so they poured up the long reindeer drive, but that did not stop them for long. We were soon surrounded. I have not time to tell you all the story. I had to blow 3 blasts on the great horn wind beam. It hangs over the fireplace in the hall, and if I have not told you about it before, it is because I have not had to blow it for over 400 years. Its sound carries as the north wind blows. All the same, it was 3 whole days before help came. Snow boys, polar bears, and hundreds of elves. They came up behind the goblins. This is giving the Battle of Pelennor Fields at this point with the arrival of Rohan from behind. I just wanted to point that out there. And Polar Bear, really awake this time, rushed out, with blazing branch off the fire in each paw. He must have killed dozens of goblins. He says 1 million. But there was a big battle down in the plain near the North Pole in November, in which the goblins brought hundreds of new companies out of their tunnels. We were driven back to the cliff, and it was not until Polar Bear and a party of his younger relatives crept out by night and blew up the entrance to the new tunnels with nearly 1,000 pounds of gunpowder that we got the better of them for the present. But bang went all the stuff for making fireworks and crackers, the cracking part, for some year. The North Pole cracked and fell over for the second time, and we have not had time to mend it. Polar Bear is rather a hero. I hope he does not think so himself. I do. But of course he is a very magical animal, really. N.B. And goblins can't do much to him when he is awake and angry. I have seen their arrows bouncing off him and breaking. Well, that will give you some idea of events, and you will understand why I have not had time to draw a picture this year. Rather a pity, because there have been such exciting things to draw, and why I have not been able to collect the usual things for you, or even the very few that you asked for. I am told that nearly all the Alice and Utley books have been burnt, and I could not find one of Moldy Warp. I must try and get one for next time. I am sending you a few other books, which I hope you will like. There is not a good deal else, but I send you very much love. I like to hear about your bear, Bingo, but really I think he is too old and important to hang up stockings. But Polar Bear seemed to think that any kind of bear is a relation, and he said to me, "Leave it to me, old man," that is, I am afraid, what he often calls me. "I will pack a perfectly beautiful selection for his Poliness." Yes, Poliness. So I shall try and bring the beautiful selection along. What it is, I don't know. Very much love from your old friend Father Christmas and Polar Bear. Oh no, the Christmas hobgoblins, exactly. All right, 1942, which is the second to last year that these letters were written. Cliff House, North Pole, Christmas Eve, 1942. My dear Priscilla, Polar Bear tells me that he cannot find any letter. I'm sorry, let's try that again. Polar Bear tells me that he cannot find my letter from you among this year's piles. I hope he has not lost any. He is so untidy. Still, I expect you have been very busy this autumn at your new school. I have had to guess what you would like. I think I know fairly well, and luckily, we are still pretty well off for books and things of that sort, but really, you know, I have never seen my stock so low or my cellars so full of empty places, as Polar Bear says. I am hoping that I shall be able to replenish them before long, though there is so much waste and smashing going on, and it makes me rather sad and anxious, too. Deliveries are more difficult than ever this year, with damaged houses and houseless people and all the dreadful events going on in your countries. Of course, it is just as peaceful and merry in my land as it ever was. We had our snow early this year, and then nice, crisp, frosty nights to keep it white and firm. and bright starry days. No sun just now, of course. I'm giving a big party tomorrow, as I ever did. Polar cubs, Paxu and Volatuka, of course, among them, and snowboys and elves. We are having the tree indoors this year, in the hole at the foot of the great staircase. And I hope Polar Bear does not fall down the stairs and crash into it after all he has decorated it and lit it up. I hope you will not mind my bringing this little letter along with your things tonight. I am short of messengers, and as some have gotten trouble in finding people, and have been away for days. Just now I caught Polar Bear in my pantry, and I am sure he had to have been to a cupboard. I do not know why. He has wrapped up a mysterious small parcel, which he wants me to bring to you. Well, not exactly to you, he said. She's got a bear, too, as you ought to remember. Well, my dear, here is very much love from Father Christmas once more, and very good wishes for 1943. No battles at all this year. Quiet as quiet. I think the goblins were really crushed this time. Windbeam is hanging over the mantelpiece and is quite dusty again, I am glad to say. But Polar Bear has spent lots of time this year making fresh gunpowder, just in case of trouble. He said, "Wouldn't that little grubby Billy like being here? I don't know what he was talking about, unless it was about your bear. Does he eat gunpowder?" "You'll find out about the pantry. Ha ha. I know what you like. Don't let that Billy Bear eat it all. Love from Polar Bear." Message to Billy Bear from Polar Bear. Sorry I could not send you a really good bomb. All our powder has gone up in a big bang. You would have seen what a really good explosion is like if you would have been there. I believe this is the final one now. Let me just check here. Yep, this is the last letter. Okay. Cliff House, North Pole, Christmas 1943. My dear Priscilla, a very happy Christmas. I suppose you will be hanging up your stocking just once more. I hope so, for I have still a few things for you. After this, I shall have to say goodbye, more or less. I mean, I shall not forget you. We always keep the old numbers of our old friends and their letters, and later on, we hope to come back when they are grown up and have houses of their own and children. My messengers tell me that people call it grim this year. I think they mean miserable, and so it is, I fear, in many places where I was especially fond of going. But I am very glad to hear that you are still not really miserable. Don't be. I am still very much alive, and shall come back again soon, as merry as ever. There has been no damage in my country, and though my stocks are running rather low, I hope soon to put that right. Polar Bear too tired to write himself, so he says, I am really. Sends a special message to you, your love and a hug. He says, do ask if she still has a bear called Silly Billy or something like that, or is he worn out? Give my love to the others, John and Michael and Christopher, and of course, all your pets that you used to tell me about. Polar Bear and all the cubs are very well. They really have been very good this year, and have hardly had time to get into any mischief. I hope that you will find most of the things that you wanted, and I am very sorry that I have no cat's tongues left. But I have sent nearly all the books you asked for. I hope your stocking will seem full. Very much love from your old friend, Father Christmas. And that's the last letter from Father Christmas. Of course, Priscilla came to be too old to do the whole ritual and everything. So, and then Tolkien didn't have any more children. And I guess he didn't do it with his grandchildren. I think he expected that, well, if anything, maybe his kids would carry on that tradition. And we don't know if, like, for example, Christopher or whatever did that with their children. But Christopher's second wife, Bailey, put this book together. And like I said, I know we had one person that went and ordered the book during this stream just because it seemed so wonderful. And I showed you just a few... Just a few of the wonderful drawings in there. There are so many of them. Almost every year there's some kind of drawing in there. So I really think that if you really like the art and everything, you should definitely get this book. Anyway, guys, that's going to be it for the night. I hope you all have a happy holidays, a Merry Christmas, and a New Year and all that. And you read the book as a kid. I didn't know that, Moogle. That's really fantastic. If you're watching on YouTube, the live is going to end shortly. If you're watching on Twitch, we're going to raid somebody. It is good, yeah, and it's poignant at the end because World War II is happening, and there's so much going on, and it seems grim. But he really feels strongly about just brightening his daughter's Christmas a little bit here. So yes, we'll be doing a Twitch raid for the schedule next week on the 1st. Me and Matt and Sid will be here, and we're going to do something special. We're going to pretend that we've been put in charge of recasting The Lord of the Rings, as if they're making another series of movies, and we're going to decide who plays what role in our hypothetical movie version of The Lord of the Rings. So we're going to be doing that next week for the Council of Tolkien. If you're watching on Twitch, you guys pretty much know the schedule. I'll just say that, tomorrow I'll be live playing Dragon Quest, which I always look forward to, but my voice is very, very raw right now. So let's go ahead and set up the raid. Let's see who we have online. Oh, that's not the right one. All right, third time the charm. There we go. Let's see who we could raid today. All right, let's see. I will be raiding a Scottish maiden who's playing Dark Souls Remastered. Oh, that's loud. Okay, let's lower that a bit. Let's raid Scottish maiden. She's playing Dark Souls. Which, I don't know if that's really her type of thing. We'll find out, right? But for those of you watching on YouTube, like I said, the live will end momentarily. For those of you watching on Twitch, we'll come along on the raid. Let me get you guys a raid message to do. Yeah. Right. Oh no, I'm trying to get this working. There we go, okay. Okay. Okay, so for those of you that are on Twitch, there is your raid message. Copy that. Paste it as we head into Scottish Maiden's stream. I will see you guys over there. I will see you guys on Discord. I will see you guys tomorrow if you're on Twitch. And thank you, everyone that came through on YouTube and watched. We'll see you guys next time. Oh, the raid didn't quite work, did it? Let me fix that. Now I have to wait for it to work. Usually it's populating while I do all that.